that. And we were talking about, organizing and, basically getting ourselves out in the streets, so to speak. And my next question is about, the left, right? It is, no secret. I consider myself a socialist, so I am definitely on the left. And my question to you is, what is some of the biggest issues you see on the left today? And is it really just relegated to just the online left, or is it the left in general? Because you're out there, you know what I mean? So, what do you see? Like, is it just something that is online exclusively, or is it an issue that you see overall?
I mean, I think there's several things, like any good lefty, when I think about what would be good if this country was, realistically speaking, working for the people, right? So what I mean by that is universal health care, a decent minimum wage, access to resources and jobs, and so forth and so on. So on that level, like any good lefty, sure, I like to see those things. But again, as a radical lefty, right, as somebody who's not a social democrat, who doesn't think we're just going to vote our way into all the resources that we need, I think part of the issue for a left community is how do you fight the powers that be? What are, it could be what are these issues that lay before us, whether or not that's police militarization and over policing, whether or not that's issues around minimum wage, issues around unionizing. There are a lot of issues that we can use to politicize people. But for me, the central issue still is how do we radicalize people, right? How do we radicalize people while we're doing these different fights? How do we show folks that, again, even if you participate in reform politics as tactics and strategies, you're doing this because these are some of the avenues available to us, short thereof of a radical revolutionary change, right? But how will we continue pushing to get people politicized so that they can see that the system itself, the American economic system, political system, from the federal to the state to the city levels, do not serve our interests, but serve the interests of capitalists, capital, and developers? How do we get them to see that the Black bourgeoisie also serves the interests of the capitalists, the developers, and so forth, right? So how do we push through those blinders that people have on, even when they want to organize, that there's something that's already set up to block us, and we're going to fight around these individual issues? But it's really how do we break through the fog of capitalist ideological belief system and of capitalist propaganda to really begin to politicize people so that they begin to see that we have to join forces to really fight for alternatives. And so for me, all these issues are of importance, of course. And I think these issues lead to things, but until we politicize people to get them to understand that the root causes will not be solved through the political system at hand, because they're the very ones causing the issues in the first place, then we're going to always go back to thinking again that just maybe a good Democrat will help us this time, or maybe if we elect enough of them that this will happen this time. Again, I see tactics and strategies within the electoral process. I'm not one that says completely beg off of that process, but I am one that says that those are limited options and they have to be done within a larger framework of organizing and politicizing, which leads you past that at some particular point.
Well, I mean, you said it, we have to go by, a certain tact. You have to be a bit of a tactician. And one of the things, it's no surprise to anybody, I grew up Jehovah's Witness. And one of the things that we did, I'm no longer one anymore, but one of the things that was very effective was whenever, I'm in Florida, whenever there was a natural disaster, particularly a hurricane, the Kingdom Hall, which is the church that Jehovah's Witnesses use, if it got damaged, what we would do is we all come together as, voluntarily, and then repair it, whatever it needed. Most likely it'd be a roof. But then in the neighborhood, you will also see the neighbor's roof also tore off. And so what we do is whatever we had together, go over to the neighbor's house, ask them if we can repair their roof for free, and then we would do it. And we will all be, and then the people who did it were state certified. So it was done correctly. And then no money. We would preach to them and then leave. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of the same vein when it comes to radical organizing is that we not only just talk about the problem, but we offer ourselves as the solution or part of the solution and go, look, your kids are starving. They can't focus. You know where I'm going with this. The kids are starving. They can't focus in school. So guess what? We're going to give them free breakfast so that they can focus better in school, so that they can actually have a better future. And while we're at it, we're going to tell you that this system does nothing for us. And if we come together and we also build coalitions with other groups, then we can actually change things.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what the Black Panthers did. And so I think this is something where, utilizing not only our voice, but I hate to put it this way, but be about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have to do it that way. And I think it's the means of pushing forth action along with reaction.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. I don't know if
no, it makes total sense because we do mutual. I think a lot of our groups still today base a lot of the work on mainly the Panthers, SNCC to a degree, even the UNIA to a degree, Marcus Garvey's organization, as organizations that were steep within the Black community. They weren't organizations that had offices like downtown. And then they would they were far more comfortable going to City Hall, talking to the politicians and the lobbyists. Our viewpoint is that we look at the organizations who had, storefronts in the Black community, who lived with folks in the community when they did organizing, folks who did things like mutual aid and build businesses within the framework of what they saw the Black community wanted and or needed. And those are the chief ways in which folks have organized successfully. Mm-hmm. When you come from folks who are not used to having a lot of stuff in a country that took everything away from you, when you see people who can base build and do things that look like it could be advantageous to the community, folks gravitate towards that, right? And I think still to this day, when you bring up the church example, they're still the largest structured organizations in our community for a reason, right? Not only is it sort of the spiritual religious talk that, groups like ours don't have, but it's also the fact that they create community, they create resources, they create opportunities for both people to fellowship and to join together. And they do that in a way that other groups and organizations, which we should also point out were destroyed, who were doing that, right? So when we look at the 60s and 70s, one of the things to take out of that is that the federal government, along with the state and cities working together in different task force, they basically destroyed radical movements, right? And what they left us with was voting and Black capitalism, right? So those were the avenues that were open to us because the radical organizing was overtly destroyed. And so when we look about doing this again or replicating or keeping it going, we have to look at what was successful and why the state attacked it. They attacked it because it was really digging deep within the Black community, politicizing people, and like you said, providing needs for folks that they otherwise would not have had met, which made them far more open to the ideas of a group like the Black Panthers or the ideas of a SNCC or the ideas of a UNIA, because they saw that folks were challenging the hegemony of white supremacy, but they also saw that folks were providing the resources that they wanted to see provided anyway by Black folks for Black folks.
Yeah, it's really an opportunity of showing alternatives. I think that's what the point is. So thank you for that.